everybody, Danny J here for Capes Not Included right here on the DJB Productions Network. Go down and hit the subscribe button down below, hit the notification bar, leave us some comments. This is going to be a really fun show today. We're going to be talking about knockoff toys and why we love them. Now, before we get into all that, I just want to bring up our guest today. We have Lily Hernandez.
Hey, hey.
I'm glad you're so enthusiastic about this.
That's the end of it.
My man Bob Taylor coming
What's
in.
up, y'all?
What's up? And guys, what a great show today. We're going to talk about knockoff toys. Now, first off, you're going to say, well, why would knockoff toys be so great, so wonderful? A lot of times we saw these toys, if you're old enough, you saw them in your five and dime or your dollar store type of things. And they're generally knockoff toys of something that's real popular. They could be G.I. Joe. It was more commonly in the 80s, it was professional wrestling. And also He-Man was another one that was a quote-unquote victim of the knockoff genre. But we're going to talk about those today because a lot of the knockoffs, although were very, very bad and comical and funny, a lot of them were great. And actually, in some cases, were a preferred toy over what they were knocking off. Bob, I know you are huge into toys and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
What were some of your favorite knockoffs?
Actually, the first knockoffs I remember when I was a kid were Shogun Warriors.
Yes.
I love the Shogun Warriors. You know, like they had the giant ones. I had the big ones when I was a kid, but they made little die-cast ones.
Yes.
That I always wanted, but they were a little too expensive. So my mother would go to Woolworths, and she would find ones that were just like them, but they were plastic.
Gotcha.
But some of those were some of my favorite toys ever. Some of those.
It's funny you say that because I never had the big ones. The big ones were advertised, and they were cool as shit because they were like the one. It was a Mazen Kaiser. He would open his arms up, and you would hit like a thing in the back, and the missiles would shoot out of his elbows and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then the fists would shoot off, and the condor would come out of his head.
And I had one of those die-cast ones that you're referring to. My parents had got me one. I forget the name of it because I was real little when I got it. But he was red and had spikes coming out of his head, a red chest plate with blue, what looked like, it would almost be described as like Venom eyes that went up like this, right?
His name is Dragoon.
There you go. And he had like a bolt for a neck. It was like an actual nut and bolt type of assembly.
Yep.
Plastic head, die-cast body, plastic legs and arms. And I had so much fun with that action figure because he was only about 2.5 inches tall.
Right.
Rough, you know. And
we actually own the 27-inch version of that.
Of that guy. No shit.
Yep.
Yeah. That was one of my favorites. I never got another one because it was one of those things where my parents, you know, as a small kid, wasn't into the collection. I was like, oh, that's cool. I like his color. Can I get that action figure? I have no idea who he is. I have no idea what he was. I'll pretend whatever I want to pretend with it. Now, I know Lily used to like steal all her brother's shit because she's a thief.
Yes. And
she's a thief.
He had cooler toys than me. So yeah, I stole his. All I had was Barbie.
You know.
Barbie's boring.
Yeah, but did you have any knockoff Barbies? Because I know they had a shit ton of those.
I don't think so because before I had talked about whenever I got Barbies,
yeah,
I gave them away.
Yeah.
And so I really can't remember if anybody brought me anything like that, but I wouldn't have known anyways because I didn't play with her.
I was like crackhead Wanda.
I did have a gem and I'm like, do better. Yeah, no, I wouldn't. I was so spoiled. I was so super spoiled when I was little, and so, you know,
I would imagine the princess. I would imagine the princess of the family was not getting knockoffs.
Oh no, I was the goddess. Like whatever I wanted, I got.
That's so funny.
So yeah, I just stole my brother's stuff. He had cooler things than me.
I was the same way. I'm the baby of 13. But right after me, I had four. Right before me, I have 4 sisters. So I didn't get, and all my brothers, my older brothers, were all old and moved out by the time I was born.
Yeah.
So anything I wanted, I got, because I didn't get no hand-me-downs, because the
Yep.
older siblings were my sister. So
Mhm.
I used to, they hated me though, because I would get can of Aqua, I would steal their Aquanet hairspray, and then get a lighter and like fucking blowtorch all my shit.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy how we did stuff like that back in the day and our parents just were like, oh, okay, it's fine.
Yeah,
I think they
blowing,
were
No
tired.
one thought,
blowing up my
no one
sister's
thought to,
greenhouse with an M80.
yeah,
Lil,
yeah.
you're the baby too, right?
No, there's 4 of us. I'm the oldest daughter.
You're the oldest.
And then
Oh, okay.
I'm one of the oldest because there's 4 of us. So there's my older brother, then me,
Oh,
then my
okay.
younger sister, then my younger brother. But yeah, no one ever thought, hey, let's go check on the kids.
No, they
Even when
didn't.
they heard weird things or saw what we were doing or watched us walk out with the can of hairspray and a lighter. Hey, what are you doing? Oh, we're going outside.
Well, you know
Yeah,
what's the
right.
funny thing
No
is
one thought,
we grew up in the 80s, and in the 80s we kind of were left to our own accord for the most part.
mm-hmm,
And the thing was, and
yeah.
I'll say this about any 80s kid, that we were some tough sons of bitches because
Oh, my parents used to tell me go play in traffic.
yeah, seriously, hey,
Yeah.
go do it. You know, watch out for that fair lane. You know, it's like you know. But the
Yeah.
thing is, we didn't have to worry about a lot of stuff. I think we honestly are one of the last generations to grow up free of mind, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, I
And,
believe that.
and I think we were more
Yeah.
open to stuff. I think, like, I had a Mapes 5 and 10 near me. I don't know if you. I know, Bob, you probably know Mapes. You've heard of Mapes,
Yeah,
right?
we had Cresties.
Crusties, okay. Lil, did you have any kind of 5 and 10 when you were growing up?
Like
Woolworths,
Woolworths,
like Woolworths.
Walgreens.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah, there were some Rite Aids.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those
But like
places had
I've
that
been
stuff.
all over the place, so
Right.
Where
right.
do you live, Lily?
where do I live right now?
Where did you
In
grow up?
Texas.
Well,
Oh.
where'd you grow up?
Well, in a like myriad places. And then after I graduated high school, I got married, and like it was just like from one military experience to the next military experience, and then I moved all over the place again. So I've been everywhere.
Right. And I would imagine you see a lot of different local stores, that type of thing. And these stores were like the hubs of where, if you didn't want to go to the big stores, you went and got the stuff. Now, I had a Mapes 5 and 10, which Mapes ended up selling into True Value, if you know True Value.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, True Value bought Mapes, or Mapes bought True Value. I'm not sure which one which. But when I used to go in there, they had 1 or 2 regular toys. Like, and I mean regular toys. I'm talking about the name brand. This is like the LJN WWF figures, as an example, right? The big rubber guys, right? But then they had from a company called SunGold,
I know some.
which they were the ones that did Galaxy Warriors and other figures like that. Kind of in the beginning were like the knockoff for He-Man,
Yep.
much smaller in a sense, because He-Man was really size-wise was equal to Remco.
Yes.
Versus SunGold were a little bit smaller, about an inch smaller, but they did a Galaxy Warriors, and they had different like everybody had a loincloth, and you had werewolves, and you had monsters, and you had aliens, and you had spacemen, and you had like Hercules type guys made in SunGold. And then what they did was they jumped on the wrestling bandwagon, which was huge in the 80s. Wrestling was at one of its peaks in the professional professionally in the 80s. And so I used to get these tag team, they used to come in tag team packs. They were wrestling champions. Every guy came with a belt, if you remember. And these guys were painted. It was the same molds as these Galaxy Warriors. So they had loincloths still, but the loincloths were painted to be like tights. And
Right.
you had all these different wrestlers. And the cool thing about these wrestlers were, and this is going to get into why I say why we love them, is that they were very colorful. They were inventive as far as these wrestlers were concerned, because they had even cheaper versions of the WWF guys. That's what you first found when you were out there. Like if you saw Big John Studd, Iron Sheik, Hulk Hogan, there were these guys that they only turned at the waist. Their legs didn't move. Their arms moved. And they were Galaxy Warrior. They were almost like knockoffs of Galaxy Warriors in a sense. So I think that was a different company. So it was a knockoff of a knockoff in a sense.
Right.
All first. But then these guys came out, and much like He-Man, they had the in the legs, they used the large rubber band with the two hooks so the legs were very, very posable. And then they had the arms that went like this, and they were painted very, very well, and the faces and the heads were sculpted very well to be professional wrestlers. And these guys were colorful, and they had cool, they didn't have backstories, but they had cool names. And it was like, hey, if you like wrestling, jump on this. And I got to honestly say, I'm 46 years old today as of this recording. This was my birthday today. But like when I got these at like 9, 10 years old, and I still have them downstairs. I was going to bring them on the show, but I couldn't get to them. These figures, I was able to bring up my own storylines. I used to write my own pay-per-views. I used to have history of these guys that it even transcended when I eventually got older, and I stopped playing with my wrestlers, no lie, when I was in my 30s. so like as a screwball. But like,
can you still go down there and play with them?
I wish I could get to them, because if I would, I would, honestly.
My wife told me sometimes at 3 a.m. she hears you going pew 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 pew.
No, what I was able to do, which evolved my imaginative play, because that's exactly what it was, is imaginative play, was when I got my Xbox, the first Xbox, they had the WWE wrestling game Raw, which you can create the industry, you can create the arena and the entrances and your own wrestlers. And what I did was I created all these Sun Gold wrestlers on the Xbox video game as best I could, color-wise, with their names and everything. I was able to add music to them. And I was able to now wrestle with my knockoff wrestlers on a video game, which brought me to a whole new level of like excitement with this thing. And the love, like I said, just transcended from one genre to another. But it's like I love them more than I did my WWE figures. My a close second to these guys were the Remco AWA wrestlers, which were real wrestlers, sculpted in the He-Man style bodies, that type of thing. But it was something where I was like, I got more imaginative out of these guys than I could out of the other ones. And I think for me, it was because the real stuff, you have a set story that somebody else wrote based on the backstory, the cartoon, whatever. These were open for play. Like, you got this guy, here's his name, do what you want with him. And for me, as a person that eventually became a writer and stuff like that, this was something that was like amazing for me, because I had these characters that I could build on my own. You know what I mean? And when I had other friends that had these figures, they had same figures, and they were doing completely different stories than I was. So it was just so neat to kind of figure that kind of stuff out. Now,
I used to do something similar to that, but a little bit more of a ghetto version.
Yeah.
I used to sell newspapers and pretzels as a kid, like when I was very young. And I used to save that money and my allowance money. Right. And I would take a camera and I would do stop motion pictures of my figures. Neat. And I would save my allowance and my pretzel money to have film developed. And then I would go get the film and I would take the pictures and put them all together in a stack and staple them at the top and flip them. Because the technology really wasn't available.
That's ingenious.
It is. Isn't that awesome? I think that's amazing.
No, that's fantastic. From a teacher standpoint, just listening to, how old were you when you were doing that?
Maybe 8.
Yeah.
8, 9, maybe from the years of 8 to 10.
Yeah.
That's innovative and ingenious for a child that age to be doing stuff like that. That's pretty rad.
I used to get what brought me to do that was, now everything's bogus, but back when I was a kid, the Cracker Jack prizes used to have the little flip books in them.
Yes.
Yeah, they
remember
were
that?
cool back in the day. Now they're
Yeah.
just stickers. They're super
And I was
lame.
like, yeah, I could do that with action figures. So I would go, we used to have right at 13th and Morton, where I grew up at 13th and Reed, right across the street from a big ball field. And right at 13th and Morton was a little corner store, little like dirtbag store called Franzini's. And they would sell a lot of knockoff figures. So I would go and I would buy the cheapest figures I can that were knockoffs of He-Mans. And I would repaint them and cut little pieces of cloth, and they would be like my Eternian guards. You know, like
Yeah.
all the little people other people who existed in Eternia that were never
Yeah.
made.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I would
Exactly.
do little fight scenes, and then I would spend the money and have the film develop. And I would literally spend like 2 hours in the park in the dirt, taking pictures in the sandbox or on trees or whatever, and just like take shot after shot after shot after shot, and then go get the film developed. And like I said, I would stack them all together in order, and then staple them at the top, and then just flip through them.
That's
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Did you guys
Maybe
ever?
I'm.
Good.
Oh, I was gonna say maybe
Yeah.
I'm weird because even when I would play with stuff that wasn't knockoffs, I still made up my own stories and did my own thing.
Right.
Well, like I told you guys before, sometimes GI Joes would be running ops, at Castle Grayskull. I
Yeah.
did that all the time.
Yes.
And then, occasionally Jem would have to show up and, wreck shop or, I just threw everybody together. I didn't care. So
Imagine that hodgepodge of a show that would have been. Could you imagine?
yeah, my brother used to get so mad because he's like, this stuff doesn't belong with this stuff. And I'm like, leave me alone.
Yeah.
Oh, I did.
Let me do my
G.I.
thing.
Joes invaded and conquered Mickey Mouse's clubhouse. You know,
Now, did you guys ever when I was a kid, and I grew up in the suburbs. So when I was a kid, like especially during winter time when it snowed, like out my parents' window used to be like this big tree. It was kind of like a weird tree because it wasn't like this gigantic tree. It was almost like a tree that had like a big long branch that went this way and it went straight up, but it had one long branch that went like to the right. And when the snow would hit it, you know how like when snow is on a tree, it looks just like very, I guess, I don't want to say cool, but like it's one of those things where it's like almost like it's ice, almost right?
like crystal.
Right. I used to look out the window, and a lot of my imaginative play would be without even playing with the toys. And I'd be like looking, and I just imagining my figures on this branch in the snow during a snowstorm. They're trying to get down the mountain, quote unquote. And I used to get like my stories from what I would see outside and stuff like that. And then I would try and recreate them inside the house. I actually got a He-Man, and I had a robe. Like as a little kid, I had a robe like that my grandmother got me, right? And I took the little cloth belt out of the robe, and I wrapped it around He-Man through his crotch, around each shoulder. And I ended up being bulky like this. But at the end of the day, based on the color of it, he looked like Thundarr the Barbarian, which was big at that time in the 80s. Thundarr the Barbarian was a huge cartoon back then.
And they never made toys of it.
No,
Until
well, they did
later in years.
later, like for a collector, they now have them. But yeah, they never made.
But when we were kids, they didn't have Thundarr toys, and they could have. There was so much potential with toys they could have.
With Ukla the Mock and Thundarr and Princess Ariel. I mean, and Hanna-Barbera made males and females badass. Like you see how I really like to play with boy toys and stuff like that. Like,
yeah,
I would have played with like if they made She-Ra like they made Ariel on Thundarr the Barbarian, I would have totally had all the She-Ra toys. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't give a shit that it was a girl. But I think the mistake they made with her is that I even as an adult I was a quasi adult when that came out, and I go, that's kind of cool that they have for the girls He-Man. You know what I mean? Because I gotta say He-Man was a huge thing, and I think it's cool that the girls can share in this, but they ended up making the She-Ra girls like Barbie almost, except they were
the real hair.
They were a lot smaller.
They were smaller, and they didn't look fierce.
No, because it was because they had
Yeah,
real hair.
that bothered me.
Yeah, right. I can figure that, because everybody looks surprised. You're like this, with this big fucking hair like this, looking like a
Like
crackhead.
if they made the She-Ra
Yeah.
figures the way they made Tila and Evelyn,
Yes,
they would have been cool.
That would have been much better. Yeah.
because I got news for you. I had Tila. I didn't have Evelyn, but I did have Tila, and she was a mainstay in my
And
play.
I gotta say right now, Tila had a great ass for an action figure.
Is that not right? It's a god honest truth. It is a god honest truth. That girl was booming, and she had nice breasts too. I mean, she was a great sculpt. She really was a great sculpt.
Right. And I don't understand why they went a completely different direction when they went to She-Ra.
She-Ra. Was it the
Those
same?
figures were just kind of like bipedal.
And it was the same company too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the same company. I think they didn't want to diverse too much to lose the female audience, but they were trying to get the female audience at the same time. So it was kind of like a catch-22, I think, in a sense of what they did. I mean, Lil, you were one of the few women out there who were like, screw this homemaker, I'm going to get in my car and go get my mani-pedi bullshit.
Yeah, that was never.
It wasn't you. You were.
Nah, I'm not one of those people.
You were a tomboy, and I think you were an open, missed market. Honestly, I truly, truly believe that. Because did you ever
Yes,
aside from your brother stuff,
especially.
Did you ever find something you say that this is me? This is what I want.
Not with like action figures and stuff
Yeah.
like that. That was more art supplies.
Oh, okay.
I loved painting and sculpting and making things, and then like my science stuff, reading about different elements and compounds, and then trying to recreate things. Like those things that was my area.
She became a mad scientist. That's why I love this.
I really did.
She really, honestly did.
All of my students appreciate that about me.
Yeah,
I talk about when I was younger, doing things that I probably shouldn't have been doing and mixing chemicals in the kitchen. Like I did all kinds of weird stuff like that.
And you know what? That was the 80s. And I got to say, hats off to the 80s, that whole decade, because not for nothing, we grew up, for lack of a better term, in the 80s. Yeah, I mean, no matter if you wanted to or not, you grew up in the 80s. If you were around in the 80s, especially at the time of.
Like I just said, I was 8 years old with a job.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know
that's
what I
crazy.
mean?
You know
These
what I mean?
kids now, they don't get jobs until they're in their 20s.
Well, I just feel sad about it, and that's why this show, especially this episode, is dear to me, because they don't know imaginative play anymore. They really don't. Everything is digital. Everything is like mind sucking. As a teacher,
Yeah, everything's determined for you, and you just need to watch everything that. Yeah, it's distressing. I pull in so many different elements in my classroom on purpose, and I push innovative thinking on purpose. When we do labs in my classroom, even something like that, I'll give them a basic, like a general outline. Okay, here's some equipment on a table over here. This is what I need you to come up with. Go. And I love that kind of stuff, because then I'm forcing my kids to be creative and to be innovative and to also fail, because that's the only way you can succeed sometimes.
What
How
age
old
are
are
you?
your students, Lily?
Yeah, how old?
How old are I have high school.
Okay.
So you got older kids. Are you finding it hard to do that? What you're saying you're doing right now? Do they not grasp it right away, or what?
Oh no, it's really weird, because in the beginning I get pushback. At the very beginning of the year, because I tell them, okay, this is what we're doing. On my first day of school, we have a lab. And it's very simple, but there are kids that are like, oh, where are all the directions? Why aren't you giving me all the directions? But then on the flip of that, I have kids that just take it and run with it. And as the year progresses, everybody gets better at that. And that's a skill that everybody needs.
And that's exploration.
Everybody's got computers and laptops and tablets and cell phones now. Shit, when I was a kid, I had a fucking Commodore 64.
Yeah.
I had a Tandy 5000. Tandy 5000. That was my first computer. I loved it.
The coolest thing I ever played on was a koala pad. when I was a kid. And that god awful thing was so fucking horrible. You know what I mean? But like, that's what I mean though. Like, I would imagine, and I'm imagining your kids are between 14 and 16.
Well, no, because I teach ninth grade and then I also
Oh.
teach 12th grade. So
So you're talking this grade and up here. Yeah. Okay.
yeah,
I got you.
it's a broad area.
I just can't imagine. Like, I teach my own daughters, you know, like my one daughter's autistic and she really gets imaginative and she gets that from me. And a lot of it has to do with the autism as well. I mean, for lack of a better term, she gets lost in her own world. And I'm like, oh, I hate that she does that. But in the same breath, I'm like, I'm glad she does. Because
Yes, encourage that.
she's very creative.
She only seems lost to you. She's not lost.
She's not lost. I know. And that's what
Yeah.
and that's what I kind of get out of it too, because I'm like, you know what, when I used to create my storylines, when I used to create my stuff, it was one of those things where I was lost. And I'm not autistic and I'm not nothing wrong. I was a very good student, etc. But imaginative play was something that was really, really big for me. I kind of shied away from sports and was really drawn to the imaginative things. And like you said, exploring and figuring stuff out. I didn't need directions. I still don't. As a guy, which is a classic thing, I put stuff together. I don't use directions. You know, I'm sure your husband's the same way. And you know,
Most guys don't.
I know which guys do. I know it's like you throw that
I'm
out.
lost. Why don't you stop and ask for directions? No, I'll figure it out.
I'll figure it out. And that was what
Yeah, I'm one of those people too.
Right?
Yeah.
so you know what I mean? But like, I think what made these knockoffs so attractive, at least to me, was that I had an open slate to write the story. I didn't have to confine to
Yes.
anybody else, honestly. And like
Yeah,
you said,
that's the appeal.
Mhm.
There are no set guidelines. You can make whatever you want and you can do whatever you want because there's no set guideline. And
Right.
that's
Well,
the
for me,
appeal right there.
it was price oriented, which, like I said, I'm
Yeah,
the baby
sure.
of 13. My parents didn't have a lot of money, even though they both worked. I was right, you know, they both worked like crazy hours. I never really got to see my parents. I was
Right.
raised by my sister, but
Right.
because there were so many of us, anything I wanted, I had to get myself. So
Yeah.
I had to get that job to make the money, to buy a bicycle, to buy my knockoff toys, to do what, you know what I'm saying? So it was all about price for me. I couldn't afford back then it was $10 probably, the real Shogun Warrior, but for $1.99 I could get one pretty damn close. And back then the knockoffs were a lot better than they are now.
Oh, well, they were. They absolutely were. Knockoffs were so much better back then. I was down the shore and I found it was knockoffs of American Gladiators, of all things, right? Now, anybody that's our age remembers American Gladiators, and was probably one of the greatest real shows on television.
I just sold a complete set of
Yeah, I loved watching that show.
I used to love watching that show completely. And they had these knockoffs, and these knockoffs were Remco style. They used the wrestling molds from Remco to make
this.
No. The Remcos were the size of He-Man.
No, but the actual American Gladiator figures,
they were big, yeah.
They were like this. Yeah.
And they weren't superposable. I had like 2 or 3 of them, something like that. And
they were like the size of thumb wrestlers.
yes, they were like a red guy and a blue guy. And then you had to get the Nitro and Blaze and all these other fucking people, whatever they were, right? But these Remco size American Gladiator-esque people, I was like, these are wrestlers of all things. These are literally wrestlers. And I brought them into my wrestling and I gave them characters of wrestlers that like were not made. You know what I mean? It's like, because, you know, back in the day, we used to watch regional wrestling. There weren't toy lines for anybody but WWF. So you had to make up your own if you wanted Dusty Rhodes, if you wanted Ric Flair, if you wanted this, you wanted that. So we were able to make, and I used to make the different things. And once again, it added to my imaginative play, etc. And I honestly think by not having that today, knockoffs, because you can find knockoffs, but they're so goddamn horrible. They're comical in a sense, especially like if you see the ones from Mexico where it's like Superman, but he's like, you know, a super guy or something like that. They changed
those Mexican knockoffs I love though.
some of them. Some of them.
Like there were some He-Man Mexican knockoffs I just came across recently. The figure, crazy cool, but the accessories, like the axe was connected to the shield.
In what way?
Like literally, like when you swung the axe, you swung the shield. It was like connected like this. There was a connector on it.
So he held
And
the shield,
you-
and he had the shield, and the axe was sticking out of it.
No, it was like They were like side by side, and he would hold the axe, but then the shield would be here connected to the axe, and when you swung it, you swung both.
So you so you had to fight one-handed. Stupid. This is dumb.
The figures were amazing.
I just think
Like, I had all these awesome Mexican knockoff wrestlers, and the whole line. They made about like 50 different ones, but they were all luchadors.
right.
Every one of them had a mask, and
Yes,
every one of them was different.
It's
And they were great figures, but they had like 5 or 6 points of articulation,
yes,
and they were probably a little bigger than G.I. Joe, smaller than He-Man, but a little bigger than G.I. Joe. And they were great because they were made in Mexico. They weren't mass produced. They
Yeah.
were all hand painted, and that's why you could buy a pack and never get the same color.
right.
They used whatever paint they had that day on premises. If they
Yeah.
were out of the blue, oh, he's getting an orange mask today.
Yes.
You know?
I remember what I used to do is I had my Remco AWA wrestlers, which was you got like 20 wrestlers and a wrestling ring. It was the greatest pack you could get. It completed your set for the most part. And the Remco figures were about the size of He-Man. And then what I would do is I would get He-Man, take his chest plate off. So now he's just in a loincloth. And I'm like, oh, well, that's Adam Prince. So he was now a wrestler, Adam Prince, right? And then I used to have Hercules. I forget the company that made Hercules. You know, I'm talking about Hercules and the Warlord. I sent you because I have the Warlord that I showed you the picture of.
They're all Remcos. The
yes,
Warlord and Hercules were both Remco.
they're all Remco. So they were the same size as those guys. So now I brought Hercules in, and he was Hercules Hernandez, which was an actual wrestler back in the day. So now Hercules Hernandez and Adam Prince were a tag team that had to go against the Road Warriors. They were like, that was like my shit, right? And then you evolve. I get these Sun Gold, which were the smaller wrestlers, and I used to keep them separate. And literally, depending on what I was doing, like I would do for 6 months, I was running this promotion. I made my own promotion. It was called the Professional Wrestling Association. It was the PWA. And I had these Sun Gold wrestlers. And I ran pay-per-views and I did all kinds of shit. And what I would do is I would go on my stereo and I would play them in with music. You know what I mean? Like they had their entrance music. And this was all happening in my bedroom, right? My mom loved me because I never fucking bothered anybody. I just stayed in my room and did this shit, right? And then once I got done with that, I said, I'm gonna pull up the Remco guys because they were in another basket. So then I would pull that ring out with those wrestlers. I had 35, 40 wrestlers there. And I would do that kind of stuff. Once I got lazy and I said, you know what, I got to fucking combine this shit because I'm getting tired of separating the two. I said, these guys aren't that much smaller or whatever. I brought them together, and the show Hercules with Kevin Sorbo came out, right, in like the early 90s.
I had a huge crush on Gabrielle.
Who, that was a blonde?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I know what you're talking about. Yes. And the figures were a little taller than G.I. Joe, but they were definitely smaller than He-Man. And they were more like a little bit bigger than the Kenner Star Wars. If you remember, they were more muscular. They were a nice looking figure, a really nice looking figure. But I had Kevin Sorbo, and I had, what was the guy, the blonde hair guy that ran with him?
Eolus.
Yeah, right. I had that guy. I had those two guys, right? And now I made them fucking wrestlers because if you took their shirt off, there are these shirtless guys with tights on. So I was like, now I got more wrestlers, right? and then I had my uncle growing up in South Philly. He went to the back of a truck one Christmas, and he came with a trash bag full of stuff that he bought off of like Market Street down where all the Asians are, and he bought like incomplete toys of all fucking things, right? So I had the ship from the movie The Black Hole, but no robots to jump the fucking ship, right? I had I had a Sun Gold werewolf figure with no chest plate, stuff like that. So what I did was I ripped the head off of the werewolf. I took my really, really bad Jimmy Snuka, which was the guy with the legs that didn't move, ripped his head off, had to shave it down because it was a circle, had to shave it down into a square so that I could get the corner in and be able to hammer his head into this body. So now that I had a Jimmy Snuka with a more fully functional body, because it was a brown guy, the face matched the skin of the wrestler. I was like, now I have a really good Jimmy Snuka at the time. So we had to get creative and we had to figure out things. Just like Lily's saying, she had to run ops on fucking Grayskull. That must have been scary for those G.I. Joes. Because that was a big fucking place to run ops on. You know what I mean? And then her brother's running there like, what the fuck are you doing with this shit? You know what I mean? So, I just find that funny. I think we lost your voice, Lil. Yeah, we lost your sound. I see you, but we lost your sound. But yeah, do sign language. It's all good. But it's one of those things where, and we're going to be
cards and hold them up, Lil.
Yeah, hold cards up. That's it. You can be our mute for today. Lil, and credits to Lil, because Lil brings such a scientific aspect to these shows. She knows what she played with and stuff like that. She didn't play with everything, and I appreciate her coming on because she herself said, I really don't have much to talk about with this, but she honestly can appreciate the imaginative play. She can appreciate the exploration that these toys invoked in us as kids, and it justified what she did by stealing her brother's shit. But so what I want to say in closing would be, and Lil, I wish I could get your voice back on here because I need your closing statement. But in fact, Lil, go out and go back in. You can hear me, right, Lil? Go out and go back in. Yeah, there you go. What I want to say in closing is that I wish imaginative play was still around. I wish it was something that, because I think these kids would really benefit from it above anything else.
I go back to this every time we talk about imaginative play. There are no more play sets. Play sets are done. And we had a lot of awesome play sets back in the day. And that helped with imaginative play.
Now we have Lil.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, there we go.
Okay, good.
Yes. So but you know what though? We made our own play sets too sometimes. You remember that?
Absolutely.
And we took
across the street from a park. The whole park was my play set.
When I first got HBO, they did a thing about how commercials were made, and they showed you how they would make, like for G.I. Joe, like the different rock formations, and they painted the styrofoam and stuff like that, and they went like that, and it made me grab all like the paper towel tubes and grab cups and make stuff that I can destroy and I can make out of things. And what we used to do too, my mom used to hate this. I would get the pillows, not the cushions for the couch, raise them up, and I should take her vacuum cleaner accessories and use them as pillars, so that when my wrestlers had to go into a cave, which was the actual couch, and their ships were there and stuff like that. And that was like, especially with He-Man and Hercules, it was like rock formations. It was like they were sleeping in a cave. And that's how I did stuff.
I used a lot of styrofoam for everything, man. I used to take the styrofoam out of everything. And it was always like, I would pretend it was like a snow mountain for my G.I. Joes or whatever, because it was white. You know what I'm saying? Or sometimes I would get little spray paint it, whatever. And like my dad used to get mad at me because he used to always love to put the trains around the tree at Christmas time.
Yes.
And every year when he wanted to put the trains out, he could never find the train tunnel because it was always in my room. I was always using it for toys.
Now, Lil, did you ever create your own play sets?
Oh yeah, I made my own stuff all the time.
And I would imagine that would be like
That
right up your alley. That would be something you
yes,
would want to do.
yes, and I had a lot of Play-Doh and like clay and stuff like that, and so I used to build things with pencils and Play-Doh and Play-Doh. Like I would put the pencils together with the Play-Doh and like build stuff and build little. I did all kinds of crap like that. And I know that I drove my parents crazy because I made a lot of mess and I wasn't the
Right.
greatest at cleaning it up. And so like I'd build things and just leave them all over the place. And yeah, I was the worst.
But that's cool though. See, and I don't think kids nowadays would even know to do that. And I think that I feel bad for the kids nowadays because of that. Because
Well,
honestly,
part of that is on us because if we don't
you're
give them
right.
the opportunity or if we
You're
don't
right.
give them materials, how are we going to expect them to just, pick that up? Some kids are like that, but some
Yeah.
kids aren't.
Spoken from a teacher. See, and she's right.
Yep.
She's right. She's absolutely right. It's us. It's
You
our
see,
fault.
if I ever have a kid, that's how I'm
Some
going to
things
raise
are
my
our
kid.
fault.
It's our
If I ever
fault.
have a kid, that's how I'm going to raise my kid. I'm not going to let him have a computer until he's a teenager.
We're
I'm going to
getting
give him toys and tell him to go out and play in the yard.
we're getting F's as parents. See how it is? It's horrible.
I'm not. Speak for
No,
yourself.
you're right now. You're probably your kids are probably your kids are like, please let me have a Game Boy. You're like, no.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But no, that's fun. And the one thing about like Bob, and I get this from Lily too, is that like as adults, we never let go of what made our childhood fond. Like a very fond time for us. And I think that's rare in people. And that's why we do these shows. And that's why, me and Lily me and Lily have a lot in common. We're both diabetics. And we both, but we both like
Not the fun kind of diabetes.
No.
The kind that requires you to be a cyborg.
there's a fun type of diabetes.
Well, I mean,
There's that Wilford Brimley diabetes, and then there's us. It's like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? But I honestly, and just to give it an insight, like meeting Lil, and I'm like, this is a girl that's like got the same mentality as I do, and I'm like, I don't meet that many people like that. That's why me and Bob kick it off. You know what I mean? Me and Bob are only a
Yeah,
couple years
Bob's pretty
apart.
rad.
You know what I mean? And I have other people like that, and it's I think it's rare for us to be around. You know what I mean? Because we're
Just like
keeping it
my
alive.
significant other. My significant other, it took me 48 years to find a woman like me. I tell her it's like looking in a sexy mirror. Because she like her collection's better than mine.
Is it really?
You know,
Yeah, she does have a lot of
she likes
stuff.
toys and comic books, and like I can bring her to my toy
think
shows and
I-
let her run,
I think I
walk
lost
away and
Bob.
let her run my whole booth without a problem. You know,
That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy.
where
Well,
past relationships, girls always felt like my collecting and my toy hobby was a competition with them. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? Because I'm always out on the hunt. I'm always looking for something. I'm always watching some kind of cartoon, or I'm always watching wrestling, and they always thought it was like some kind of stupid competition, where it's not. It's just me being nostalgic about who I was growing up. You know what I'm saying? And my
Mhm.
girlfriend is the same exact way. She gets all of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I could put a whole slew of toys on the table in front of her, and she'll be like, "This is this, this is that, this is this, this is that, this is that." You know?
Now we
We
lost
lost
Lily
Lily.
again. Yeah, we lost Lily again. I know she's having some problems at the Casa de Lil. So, but yeah, definitely. I think this was a great episode. I encourage anybody to go out there, look up these companies. There's Sun Gold. There's Soma, SOMA, which was another one that did wrestling.
You also have Lennard.
Lennard, okay. There's another one there,
Lennard,
too.
they have, they're a current knockoff company. They basically knock off all GI Joes. They make
Okay.
cheaper versions of GI Joes. You ever go to Toys R Us and see that giant bomber?
Yeah.
That's a Lennard piece.
Okay.
They made great vehicles and shitty figures.
Right.
So,
And we
so I
talked
would
about this
always buy
before. Like I
all
had
the
G.I.
Lennard
Joe.
vehicles and put GI Joes with them.
I had G.I. Joe, but I also had Sergeant Rock. And
Oh yeah, I
Sergeant,
love them.
and Sergeant Rock was a line, but I wouldn't necessarily consider them a knockoff. But they were combined with G.I. Joe later on in the future.
The Sergeant Rock figures, when they first came out, they were a knockoff of another cheap line
Yes.
called Eagle Force.
Yes. Yes, that's right. Yes. And Eagle Force, you're talking about Eagle Force. Remember they were die-cast metal?
I loved them.
I had those. I had Captain Eagle.
And the bad guys were called the bad guys. That's what they called them. They called them the bad guys.
Great imaginative, isn't it? Now, let me ask you this. Lil, let me ask you this, though. Is your craziness match your husband? Because I know him, but he seems like he's a funny guy and stuff. But like,
Okay, so
is he like you?
so speak of the devil. He just walked in here.
Right.
Danny just asked me if my craziness matches your craziness. What I'm sorry, my dog is being interesting.
My dog is. No.
Oh no, come over here and hold on just a second.
Yeah, you get yourself situated.
Move the dog. No one can see you. Turn your
There he is.
your
Hey,
head.
there he is. I know, you gotta cover it. It's their debut. My man. But like, is he like?
Okay.
Give us the insight on him. Like,
So I just asked him your question, and response was no.
No, not at all. No.
So who's crazier then?
No.
I gotta go with Lily.
Okay, so can you guys hear me?
I can.
Yes.
Hear you. Yes.
Okay. No, come back here, babe.
I don't want to get on there.
Okay, go ahead and ask whatever you want.
Okay, so we were saying is, and knowing how Lily was like a ninja when she was a kid and used to steal her
Oh
brother's
wait,
shit.
no, we can't hear.
I can hear you.
Oh wait.
Okay, wait.
All right, go ahead.
Can you hear us now?
We can.
Okay.
Yes. So knowing
Okay, go
how
ahead.
Lily was like a ninja and used to steal all her brother's shit when she was younger, and how she's very big into imaginative play and stuff like that. Were you the same way when you were a kid?
No.
No, not at all.
I had a very mean dad who was he was a Green Beret for 30 years.
Yeah.
He used to, if you went outside, you had to stay outside. If you came back in, even for a glass of water, you had to come back in. So I stayed outside. So I had very, very, very strict childhood. There was no imaginary nothing.
Now there you go. And I think that now you got to feed off of her because she's got to be crazy to you, I would think. Like
What do you think?
like she, I mean,
There's only room. There's only room. There's only room. There's only room for one crazy person relationship.
that's true, and it might as well be her,
But
right?
you love me, so let's hear about you.
If you have two crazy people, you're going to jail.
My father used to tell me.
You're going to jail if you have two
My
crazy.
father used to tell me.
Okay, but hold on, because we have to trade off every so often. Sometimes he is bananas, and then I have to deal with that. So like it's a two-way street, but most of it comes from me.
But see, you're a
Don't make
teacher.
that
But see, you're a teacher though, so you're used to like dealing with somebody, in a sense.
What do you mean?
He's got to play a character on TV. You got to deal with these people in real life.
Right? I'm just actually like this.
So that's a great thing. But you know what though?
Danny, I gotta run, bro. Happy birthday, brother.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. I'm growing my birthday stash myself here.
Dexter, go. Okay.
But no,
My father used to say, all women are crazy. You just got to find one that's your kind of crazy.
that's true.
Yes, and that's exactly what it is. I'm his kind of crazy.
There you go. That's true. I would think you're like a yin to
But he's
yang.
my kind of crazy. Don't let him fool you. He's not innocent.
No. He's very rough and tough. I mean, I feel bad for him that they said he wasn't Spanish enough on TV. but
He likes to say all kinds of stuff
he is. I know he likes to talk.
It's
He's a
never-
good guy.
in our house.
But guys, what a great time. If you guys are out there, look for these different companies. You can see them on YouTube, like SunGold, Soma, SOMA. What was the other one you said, Bob?
Lennard.
Lennard is another one now. And like Lily does with her students and stuff like that, we invite you to try and create imaginative play. Try and create something. Come out there and make something new. Don't go by the guidelines. Don't go by what the WWE says you're supposed to do in wrestling. Don't go by what Marvel says you have to do with G.I. Joe. Make your own stories and see what happens and go from there. I mean, there's so much out there. There's so much fun to have. It's up here. And you have to kind of like let it out. You really do.
And use recyclable materials whenever you're done with something, no matter what it is, a cardboard box, a toilet paper roll, a paper towel roll, anything like that. Keep all that stuff together, rinse it out if you need to, throw it on a table and tell your kids to just go with it and get into it with them. That's so important.
That's true, though, too. You make a really good point because, honestly, if you're like that and you have a base in this yourself, which you in fact do, to go to your kids and say, hey, dude, this is why this is fun. Check this out. This is not work.
Yeah, get off your phone. Put your phone down. Go do something.
Mm-hmm. Honestly,
me and my partner that I do toy shows with were talking the other day. Chris, my mother was a completist. Okay, she collected everything, and that's where my collecting comes from. But what I mean by she was a completist was she didn't just buy me one Stormtrooper. She bought me 20 because that you needed that many. And when I would come down on Christmas morning, everything, like I didn't have any, like I see all these people selling their toys and they still have the original boxes. I never had any of the boxes. I would come down Christmas morning, everything was set up in a giant battle.
Yes!
My
mom didn't want to throw out didn't want to have to deal with it the next day, so she got everything thrown out the night before when I went to bed. You're absolutely right. Mm-hmm.
And I mean, granted, I would come down and it was a huge wow factor, like, whoa, look at all this. I didn't have to unwrap anything because it was all set up already. You know what I'm saying? Granted, now 40 years later, I wish I had the boxes for shit, but like my mom was my mom was like a huge collector like that. So she wanted me to have everything, you know what I'm saying? And she would buy stuff and not give it to me until she had it all.
That's crazy. That's crazy. And that's so familiar to me because, like I said, it got to the point where I couldn't have my stuff underneath the tree. They used to take my stuff down the basement. And on my mother's grave, God rest her soul, 20 feet of wall were nothing but toys that were set up. My brother was old. My brother
each one of us had a corner of the room.
Yeah, my brother's got 5 years on me, so he would get up before me, set everything up with them. They would throw out all the packaging, stuff like that. And I'd have like all my Marvel stuff. And then I had Robotech. And then I had G.I. Joe. And he had everything sectioned out for me and stuff like that. It was all ready to go. And my brother used to wake me up at about 3-4 o'clock in the morning. We used to play with the Hess trucks first because my whole family were mechanics. So we used to get the Hess trucks and deliver oil overnight because you could turn the lights on and stuff like that. And then after that was done for about an hour, then I would go downstairs in my basement and there were all my toys. And I was like, holy shit. And to be honest with you, I don't know if I believed in Santa Claus or not because I was pulling all this shit out of the wish book from Sears. You know what I mean? I honestly don't know, but I don't think it ever mattered to me that Santa Claus was coming to my house or not coming to my house or whatever the case was. I don't think I really gave a shit. I just really appreciated what I was getting. And I was rare. I mean, my mom said, like, Danny never expected stuff. Like, I always just asked for it and I got it because I was the youngest. But, like, I never expected stuff. And I got that from my dad a little bit as far as, like, a personality trait. But looking back, like you're saying, 40-something years later, you're like, wow, like, that what a great time. Like, I would love to be able to go in a time machine and relive just to watch myself come down. Not even
you get that time machine, you tell me, I'm going back with you and picking up as many toys as I can and reselling them.
And we're gonna go to Lily's house and we're gonna get her brother in there, and we're gonna stop Lily from going to his room.
If for the reason to just get back at me,
Yeah, there you
taking
go.
all of his.
You have like camo Barbie. She's all like, yeah, like this. Oh, stupid.
Yeah.
Well, Lily, it's been a pleasure to see you this morning. Thank you so much for coming on. Bob,
Likewise.
Fucking chopped liver. Thanks, brother.
I was getting to you. Bob, always a pleasure to get you. Lily is going to be co-hosting Bite Me right here on the DJB Productions Network, which is going to be
excited about.
real exciting. It's going to be right up her alley. It's going to be a horror-based show, but talking about fear, why we are scared of things, why we crave it, and all the psychological shit that goes along with it. And it's going to incorporate movies and stuff like that. It's going to be a real fun show. She's one of 3 co-hosts, Chris Gordon. Who else do I have? I forgot who I got. It's Chris Gordon. It's Lily Hernandez. And then it's Samantha Sparks, who I make fun of her because I'm like, wasn't that the girl on Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs? And she goes, yes, but I had the name first. So, and Samantha is a researcher into the psyche and stuff like that. So you guys are going to be like, boom, 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 like tag teaming right there. And Chris Gordon's just like, I like horror movies. So
Who doesn't like horror movies? Though horror movies.
Who doesn't? And I got news for you. I love horror cons more than I like regular Comic Cons. I really do.
Me too.
Yeah. Honestly, I went to one and I was like, holy shit, I love it so much better. And I didn't know I did until I went to one. And I was like, this is great. So I'm going to catch Lily. That's coming up on July 25th is going to be the debut episode of that.
On a side note, on Wednesday, June 8th, I am finally getting internet installed in my house. So
July 8th?
July 8th, yeah.
July 8th, okay.
I'm finally getting internet installed in my house, and it's going to be the fastest speed I can ever have. So I'll be able to show my man cave on an episode of the Man Cave.
Boom. Man Cave, which is another show that we're doing. Lil, if you have a woman cave, we'll be happy to show it on our show, by the way.
She has a woman cave.
But that's
She has a woman cave, but if she shows it, the whole show will get shut down, man.
I know, right? I can imagine what that looks like, right?
It'll be the highest viewer volume you've ever had. My husband might be on his way to Pennsylvania to murder you.
Right, there you go. But he doesn't like it up here in Philly, so I'm safe. No, but check out Lily on July 25th on Bite Me. We got Wednesdays. Every Wednesday, we got Bob Taylor on New Comic Book Wednesdays, which is a great show. Great show. You can check out the week's worth of what's great and what's popping in pops, in toys, in comics, etc. So if you're a comic nut like that, check that show out. It's a very quick show, but it's a very fun show, and you get to check out what you should be looking for.
I try to keep it quick because I want to keep people interested. You know, like a lot of podcasts, after about 15 minutes, people are bored of it. So, you know, I make it from like 10 to 15 minutes long. Easy watch. You can watch it on your lunch break at work, and I'm done.
As we're ending this at about an hour. I love how he says that. and then, well, we have a lot of other stuff. He's trying to give me a hint. I know it is. So check those shows out. Hit the subscribe button down below. Hit the notification bell. Tell us what, down on this show, tell us what knockoffs you enjoyed. If you have any pictures, throw them up there. That would be fantastic to see from you guys.
Speaking of which, I just added you to a knockoff group, Danny.
I did, and I accepted it, and I can't wait to look at it. I accepted it this morning. So that's going to be a fun thing to look at. So subscribe, share the channel, and make sure you check out all these great shows because we have all these wonderful people in here who are just doing such great jobs. And I started this production company in 2016. I started this channel, and it's grown to this. And I've been blessed to work with such wonderful people. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Lily, you're phenomenal. Your husband's phenomenal. Bob is great. All my other guys, the McIntyres, these are guys I wrestled with. All my guys on DJs After Dark, everybody's great. And Matt Sunner, he's another awesome one. Mark Lindsay, everybody.
Yeah, he's okay.
He's okay. So he couldn't come on the show today. But But definitely, guys, check out. This is a labor of love for everybody.
Brand, we miss you. Where the frig you at?
Yeah, no, I called him. I don't know what he's doing. So for Bob, for Lily, my name is Danny J. Until next time, keep your eyes to the stars and your cape in the wind or something like that. We'll see you next time. Have a great day, guys.